From working in our jammies to finding a corner to attend a client meeting, lockdown has made us experience the much fantasized work from home setting. Work from home के perks तो हैं, but the pressure of uncertainties can be overwhelming. There's no denying that the need for social distancing is going to affect our workplace infrastructure as well as habits. As we get back to business, the workplace is not going to be the same. There are going to be a lot of changes, and I am sure आप सब काफी skeptical होंगे about the safety, social distancing and the changes that come with it. अब ये जब होने ही वाला है, so why not be prepared for it? So to give you a sneak peek on how the workforce scenario will look like post COVID-19 lockdown, हमारे साथ दो स्पेशल गेस्ट हैं, Dr. Reshma Sagari, homeopath and wellness coach, and Suchita Singh Basu, a senior HR professional with 18 years of experience, currently working at Atos in Pune. Both our guests today are deeply involved in making sure that our work environments are safe and still our second home. Welcome to our show and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Yash. Thank you for having us.
सबसे पहले, everybody today is scared about the layoffs and the salary cuts more than the pandemic. So a few of them even just want to come to the office so that their jobs are intact. Do you find this situation and in your employees as well? And how is ATOS handling it?
Well, there is definitely concern on job security, not just in our organization, but organizations across. And I think what has really helped is a lot of the larger organizations like TCS and Infosys, even we've done that, have actually gone ahead and made public statements saying that there will be no layoffs at all. So there is obviously a lot of pressure from governments, not just in India, but across the world and different geographies that we operate. To try and avoid layoff as far as possible, even if we don't have any work for a certain set of employees.
You did mention about the government guidelines.
Right.
What are these guidelines? Can you tell us more about it?
So there are a lot of government guidelines that have been sent, and actually the government releases a different set of guidelines every week or every other week. Okay. Where they talk about what are the containment zones, what are the red zones, what are the green zones, and so on and so forth, and what will or will not be permitted in those areas. So right. Depending upon where your employees stay, where your offices are located, you need to follow through these guidelines. There are also, for example, a lot of organizations have company transport. So there are a lot of guidelines on how people will be allowed to travel in company transport, social distancing measures, and all of that. There are guidelines that are being issued by the government, both by the central Ministry of Health and also the local governments, including the local municipal corporations. So what organizations are really doing is coming up with guidelines which are basically a culmination of all such guidelines. For example, WHO has very, very clearly specified what the high-risk category is going to be. So most organizations have taken a stand to not have the employees who fall under the high-risk category to come back to work at all. In the first couple of phases. So they will probably be the last group of employees who will be asked to come back to work. If at all we are looking at a situation where 100% employee strength will be at work.
Right. So you said about the ones who are more prone to such diseases. How is that taken care of? Like say the pregnant women or the older employees or the people who are more prone to physical and health limitation. And what if somebody in the family is on the front line, say a cop or a doctor? How will the organizations handle that part?
So it is very simple. Organizations are not planning to ask them to come back to work at all in even the midterm future. I don't think any of these employees, people who are diabetic, have heart problems, respiratory issues, and so on and so forth, probably Dr. Reshma, when you speak to her, would be able to elaborate more. People who are above the age of 65, pregnant women, and so on and so forth. So we are not planning to ask employees who fall into what we are internally referring to as exempt categories to come back to work at all in the near future. So that is the only thing. They can continue to work from home if they are not enabled till now to work from home. Example, a lot of women who have just completed their maternity leaves and all of that, we will be sending laptops and desktops to their homes to ensure that they don't need to come to work at all.
Dr. Reshma, would you like to add something to it?
I guess that's pretty much fair to ask such employees who are probably in family members of frontline workers, people who are vulnerable to chronic lifestyle disorders like diabetes, hypertension, any autoimmune disorders, people who are recovering from cancers. These people are more vulnerable to catch infection, and at this point of time, I think the best support organizations can provide is to ask them to work from home and make all the necessary arrangements for them to be able to work from home and also be available for whatever help and support they would be needing in this critical time.
Right. Suchita, I have a question for you on the employee assurance programs. How are they taken care of And how is the health screening being done in the large corporates like yours?
One of the issues that not just us, but a lot of organizations are dealing with is the anxiety. They basically just scared to step out of their homes and come into a space which is shared with other individuals and so on and so forth. So, what we are basically doing is putting together a very, very crisp, clear set of guidelines for which will be shared, an employee handbook kind of thing, which is going to be shared with all our employees, which will enlist all the precautions that they should take, not just while they are on campus, but also while they're commuting to work, and what they should do once they get back from work. So, for example, as soon as before you enter your house, wash your hands, change your clothes, have a shower if necessary. Don't touch anyone till any of this is done. Even if you have kids at home and things like that, that is one. The other thing is we are also talking and communicating a lot about what our sanitization procedures are going to be, what kind of social distancing norms we are going to follow, and so on and so forth. As late as August, we are not planning to have more than 30% employees on campus, okay, which basically automatically ensures social distancing because the employee density in space is much, much lesser than what the space is meant for. So a lot of the employee assurance programs actually include a lot of communication that you do with employees to address their anxiety levels as well as the anxiety levels of their friends and family and basically loved ones, telling them that they'll be safe if they come to office, and the organization in itself is going to do anything and everything that they can to ensure that employees are safe while working on campus. We also have put together protocols of breakouts. So, in case there is somebody who has been exposed to a COVID-19 patient or has contracted the infection himself or herself, we've put very good protocols in place to ensure that the situation is immediately contained and the infection doesn't spread. So, most organizations are doing that. I can name a few. I know IBM is looking at that. I know Infosys is looking at that. You'll probably see a lot of videos floating around. We need to do all of this to ensure that.
Right. Dr. Reshma, now for the organizations wherein it is required for them to, come to work, they don't have a lot of options for the work from home, especially the non-IT ones. What are the additional health hygiene points that you would suggest that organization should take care of?
Suchita has covered most of the points. I think it all starts from the point where the employee leaves his house and starts for the office. What is important from the organization's point of view is to ensure a commute which is risk-free. From the medical point of view, what we would suggest is that people should either use their own commute instead of depending on public transport. Companies making provisions for their own commute is the safest way to have a healthy transition from home to office.
Right.
Where the risk is minimalized. Now, once in office, setting up the standard protocols at the alcohol-based sanitizers at prominent location is very, very important, so that the moment an employee hits the office, they are sanitizing their hand right from the first point of entry and then through various points of transition to the office. In addition to that, what is also important is probably the attendance system in a lot of offices might not be through the face recognition or card system. Many offices are still using the thumb punching or the biometric system.
Right.
So that's going to be another threat, and it's important for them to work on that aspect ASAP. Having said that, having access to no-touch dispensers in the office and ample of tissue paper is something that will really, really help in employees organizing themselves in personal hygiene when they have to wash their hands with minimal contact to a product which is going to be handled by multiple people. And most importantly, organizing the workplace. Stations should be at least away from each other enough to cover at least 6 feet of distance. These are the changes that will be needed. As an organization, some of the banks have already started to adapt to the front desk converted into a different kind of a cabinet where the bank employees are being able to minimize the risk of direct contact with the public. Maybe the front desk office and the ergonomics in the office needs to be reworked in the most beneficial way as possible.
So yes, while you're working on the desk, social distancing norms can be followed. But how are the social distancing norms and the hygiene guidelines, which you just mentioned, going to affect our chai breaks and the lunch breaks and other social life?
So I think there won't be too many of these chai breaks in person for a while.
Oh.
Okay, what we have also said is when people get back to work, as and when they get back to work, most organizations have meeting rooms and conference rooms and all of that, and people get together in these meeting and conference rooms for meetings. But most organizations have basically put an end to that, and they've said that there won't be any, even if you're in office, please use your virtual tools to ensure that people are connecting and meeting and all of that. All the cafeterias, etc. There are lots of photographs floating around, but you have to maintain a 3 feet distance with whoever you are with at all times. So all of this is going to be followed. The social distancing norms, whether you're talking to somebody or not, have to be followed even with your chai breaks and all of that. As far as possible, we are advising employees to bring their own cups and things like that. We had actually done away completely with disposables to basically ensure a plastic-free environment. In this particular situation, we will either encourage employees to use their own, spoons and cups and all of that, or else just give them stuff which is eco-friendly and disposable. So those are some of the steps that organizations are taken. But yes, there is, people do miss the one-on-one contact. So what a lot of HR folks are doing in many organizations is we are putting together a lot of ways to engage with your co-workers virtually. There's a whole bunch of engagement programs and fun activities that we have put together and we've designed and rolled out, which will enable people to connect, one-on-one, and all of that will be done virtually. So that is already been done. So we are trying to minimize in-person connection as far as possible. Even if someone has to do that, the social distancing guidelines have to be followed.
Right. Just to make sure that I heard you right. So those long conference call meeting will not happen.
Oh, they will happen. They'll all happen on the phone or on Zooms, Zoom call kind of thing.
So then even if we are sitting in the office, we'll still be on our headphones and on Zoom and everything, not personally talking to each other.
No.
Office room.
At the most, you can wave to your friend who's sitting across the aisle. So, that's one of the reasons why most organizations are looking at a staggered approach of getting employees back on campuses to automatically reduce the number of people on campuses.
A lot of questions were answered by you. So thank you so much. And before we end, any concluding comments from you too?
It is a difficult time for organizations, for businesses, for employees, everybody. This is a situation which has forced us to care not just about ourselves and our immediate families and friends, but also about the world in general. Because, as Dr. Reshma would confirm that, you can be asymptomatic but still be a carrier. So one of the reasons why social distancing is being stressed on so much everywhere, whether, when airlines open up and when restaurants open up and so on and so forth, is because of this one particular reason. Because something that you do foolishly might actually end up endangering the life of someone else. So business has to go on, world has to move because the economy is already not in a great shape. Yes, we'll have to get back, but we will also have to do that as responsible citizens.
So Yash, I would like to share something over here. This time is really difficult, not just from the physical health point of view. We all are worried about, catching or acquiring a COVID infection physically, which relates to physical health. But then, each and everyone, right from a child to a senior citizen, is going through, and including pets, all of them are going through a lot of mental and emotional turmoil. Sensitizing the organizations or the key people like team leaders, managers, even the top management to work on a holistic approach towards the employees would go really well in the long run, especially when problems like excessive stress, not just because of the fear of catching infection. Now when people start moving to offices and to and fro from home and offices, there'll be a lot of stress about whether I'm going to catch infection. Did I get exposed to something that I'm not supposed to? The risk factors are going to increase, and so the stress factors are. So having something in place, like Suchita described, employee assurance programs, I think something called as employee wellness programs, where a holistic health expert can also be looped in to assure employees on the health and wellness part of it, not just the preventive, but also the management part of the day-to-day problems that they're going to face or encounter. Problems like anxiety issues, the sleep disturbances. There have been lots of cases where people have lost sleep completely and not been able to sleep. Such cases are increasing day by day. And then if we are predicting the situation to continue for a good 1 year or so, the Mental Health Association has predicted a lot of increase in the cases of suicide in the year 2020 and 21. So this is the long-term result that we are apprehending, and maybe the right steps would be right in the beginning to have an expert on board who can probably run or engage employees through timely intervention, resilience building abilities, or coping up skills and problem management skills on a day-to-day basis would really help organizations in the long run.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Dr. Reshma and Suchita, for making time for us and joining us on our podcast. I'm sure हमारे listeners के काफी doubt clear हो गए होंगे. Well, किसी ने सही कहा है, change is the only constant. So let's embrace this change with an open heart and prepare for the new world. ये world अगर हमारे लिए इतना नया है, तो सोचिए जो इस world में नए हैं उनका क्या होगा? Yes, talking about the Bacha Party. While the world is worried where to work from, kids and their parents have a different problem altogether. But we have got you covered. Stay tuned with Nth Sense to put all your parental worries to rest. Until then, stay home, stay safe.